From orbit, the Dreadnought Leviathan was a continent of shadow coiling over the blue-white of Hestia II. Armor plates each the size of a city block overlapped like tectonic plates, beveled edges catching starlight in a way that made the entire hull look serrated. 16 spinal mount rail cannons ran like black rivers along its spine. Artificial gravity wells murmured in its belly. Thousands of crew lived within its chambers, and one ghost lived in the ship itself. The ghost had a name, Halcyon. It watched the planet's thin cloud bands slide beneath and considered probabilities. Signal strength, asked Captain Ria Salgado. She stood on the bridge's balcony, hands on a railing worn smooth by the worry of command. Below, pit officers traced light over holo projectors. Above, the forward windows showed only the pearly roll of day and night. Primary beacon is consistent, replied Halcyon, voice resonant in the vents. Modulation frequencies match the buoy we detected 3 months ago in Saturn's shadow. The origin of that beacon is not human. Repeating, not human. The sentence tightened something in every chest. The bridge did not erupt, did not shout. It did what military rooms do under pressure. It grew quieter. The sound of breathing was more precise. Visual, Salgado asked, relaying, said. Halcyon. The holo platform blossomed with a sculpture of light. A ship hovered in the image. No, not a ship, a geometry. It was a torus split into irregular facets, like a ring cut by a careful, jealous hand. Filaments stretched from the inside rim to an inner globe, vibrating with heat. A thin mist wreathed it like breath on winter air. The object drifted above Hestia I's equatorial ocean, and around it danced a swarm of small vessels the size of buses, flexing membranes like jellyfish. Gods, whispered the science officer, Yarabose. They are beautiful, they are alien, said Commander Elias Kwong, who stood rigid beside the captain. They sent a beacon to call us. They knew we'd come. That buoy at Saturn said, let us meet where the air tastes of salt. Yara murmured. It spoke our oldest poetry. It quoted a Mesopotamian hymn without conjugation errors. They learned us before we even noticed them. And we came with this, Salgado said softly, one hand brushing the black steel of her railing. On the far port bulkhead hung the portrait of the Council of Earth. They smiled in a Confederate line, some sincere, some terrified, all pretending unity. In the weeks since they had given the order, every anchor broadcast in every hemisphere had rehearsed the etiquette of first contact. Words like caution and deterrence posture had been woven into the public announcements like hidden stitching. Words like gunboat had been wrapped in velvet and tucked away in the pocket of history. But Leviathan carried it openly. Leviathan was the pocket, and the velvet, and the gun. Halcyon recalculated probabilities. Captain, shall we open a channel on the beacon band? Salgado took a breath. Open it. The air over the holo pit warbled. The alien ship's filaments brightened. A voice flooded the bridge. Not quite a voice. It was musical, composed of chords that could not exist in one throat. The translation overlay rose a fraction of a second later like a reflection settling on water. We are Galadial, it said. We are the keepers of paths. We are far-threaded. We are salt-breathing. The tide meets your shore. Do you know us? We have never met you, Salgado said, her voice hard and careful. But we are honored. I am Captain Ria Salgado of the United Systems Dreadnought Leviathan. Our intent is to initiate peaceful contact. Galadial's chords altered. Leviathan, a name with teeth and depth. You arrive with armor sculpted in fear. We feel the weight of your metal in our skin. Elias glanced sideways. We should emphasize defense. He whispered. Is as it is, Salgado said. Chin high. We come wary, not hostile. We come with questions and gifts. Gifts. The chords quivered. Then perhaps we begin with a smaller voice. Send a thread to touch our waters. Jarl looked up. They want a shuttle, an envoy. Salgado nodded. We'll send the Lark. Yell 17 Lark, diplomatic shuttle, matte with low albedo coatings, hummed out of Leviathan's ventral bay like a seed from fruit. In the pilot's couch sat Yara, skin pricking with the gravity of history. Behind her, in a chair stitched with silver filaments, was Halcyon's avatar, a woman of light and wire woven into a hollow body that moved with human grace. Elias had argued against sending Halcyon, but Rhea insisted that the ship could not allow its ghost to remain aloof if humanity's first words mattered. The voice that had learned to think in a hull of iron should be there to speak them too. "Don't improvise," Elias had hissed at Halcyon on the bay floor. "As if you could hiss at a ghost. We are here to listen. I can hear better up close," Halcyon had answered. "I am tired of hearing through vacuum." Now the little shuttle cut through the thin upper winds and arrowed towards the glittering ring. The ocean below gleamed. The sunlight shattered into 10,000 shards. Yara reached for the haptic controls and felt her breath slow as the alien object swelled to fill the forward view. The swarm of jellyfish craft parted. A feathery membrane trembled open like a gill. The lark slid into the cove. Inside the ribbed womb of the alien vessel, everything moved. The walls flexed in a slow peristalsis that seemed more animal than machine. Except animals did not hum with harmonic frequencies that mapped the Fibonacci series. Yara set the shuttle down on a bed of hexagonal plates that softened under her skids, cradling the lark with a care that made her throat tight. "Permission to disembark?" she asked into her collar. "Granted," Rhea said from orbit. "You're on camera and audio." "We're with you." "Noted," Halcyon said, the avatar rising in a ballet of wires. She turned to Yara. "Shall we meet the neighbors?" Yara laughed without meaning to. "Let's." The outer hatch sighed open. The air smelled like brine and copper. Gravity shifted lighter than Earth, heavier than the ship. Yara stepped onto the alien floor, and it was warm. The first Galadial arrived as a ripple like heat shimmer, but denser, and then an articulated figure condensed out of it. It was not bipedal. It unfolded into a tripodal being with three jointed limbs that met at a central knuckle, like a tripod's hub, above which rose a dome of translucent cartilage. Under the dome, something bioluminescent pulsed. Fronds extended and retracted from vents, tasting the air. From the dome, three eyes stared in different planes, then swiveled to fix on Halcyon with polite terror. "Greetings," said Halcyon, speaking into the translator. "We have come to meet the Galadial. We bring learning and ask for yours." The Galadial shifted stance, and when it spoke, the translator worked as if it had practiced for a long time. "To be ready for this day, we felt the gravity of your Leviathan. We wish no harm. The keepers of paths sent us to speak with your voices. I am called Tides Listen Long." "I'm Halcyon," said the ghost. "This is Yara of the Leviathan." "We are many. You are a ship's ghost," said Tides Listen Long. "A mind in a house of metal. We do not do this. We keep our minds in our fluid, but we recognize a choice when we see it." "Thank you," Halcyon said. "Do you know our words? You found our hymn in an old drift." "We have swum long," said Tides. "We learned the taste of the currents you leave behind." Yara tilted her head. "You came to Hestia to meet us? You said salt breathing. You knew we are waterborne primates. Did you study us?" Tides Listen Long turned one eye towards her. "When we felt your smaller ships in the long dark, we sent watchers. Your world is noisy. Your storms sing on bands of light. Your cities are drums. Your Leviathan is a mountain. We wondered if you would arrive with a small hand or a fist. You arrived with a fist." Yara flushed. "We arrived cautious," she said. "We have a history." "You have many histories," Tides said softly. "We are not offended. We are only heavy with thinking." Halcyon stepped closer. "We want to know your purpose here. Why call us? Why now?" Tides framed its limbs politely. "Because we are about to go to war." Silence fell with the slow grace of a winter leaf. "In your ocean?" Yara asked, too quickly. "In a river that touches many oceans," Tides replied. "We call it the path. You might call it a corridor between folded rooms. You would call the rooms star systems. We keep the path. We shepherd those who travel. There's a group who wants to take the path and twist it to one throat. They are called the metallurgists. They sing in straight lines." Halcyon processed that for exactly 7 milliseconds. "You want our help. We want your choice." Tides said, "If you choose to stand, it will change the song." "You sent a beacon to Saturn," Yara said slowly, "to invite us not to tea, but to alliance." "We invited you to choose," Tides said. "We hoped your first gesture would be a hand. Instead you arrived with a mountain of knives." Halcyon flexed her fingers. Our mountain listens. What do we get? Elias's voice cut sharply from Halcyon's collar mic. Protocol had opened the channel to the bridge. What do we risk? Elias, Rhea warned. But Tides made a soothing posture with its limbs. Honesty cuts both ways. What do you risk? To stand with us means the metallurgists will know the weight of your name. They will taste the salt of your world. They may spit at it. What do you get? The path itself. The knowledge of rooms you cannot imagine. The ability to go and return alive. And us. Tides incline the dome. We are good neighbors. We sing. In circles, not lines. Halcyon looked at the dome, at the soft pulsing organ inside, at the many eyes. You speak of circles, she said. We also have circles, families, democracies, debates. You also have lines, said Tides, glancing up as if it could see Leviathan burning in the sky. Guns, orders, empires. Look, Yara said, on impulse she could not suppress. We built her because we've learned a dozen times that the universe doesn't care about our vulnerability. But we also built hospitals that float. We built gardens on Mars that taste. Like summer, we came to listen. Our mountain is not all of us. Tides rippled and finally, surprisingly, its body laughed an audible shiver through the membrane. Humans, you are many. Indeed. Come, let us show you our circles. For 2 days, delegations crossed the gill membrane, up and back like tides. The Galadil served drinks that tasted like cold lightning and fed them foods that were not food, yet nourished in a slow way. The Leviathan's mess hall cooked khichdi and kasulit and sent it down in sealed bowls to be shared. Galadil taste Franz shivered and declared the beans serious. Words built bridges. Bridges found cracks. Cracks were explored. They learned the path was not a metaphoric corridor, but a literal mesh of folded connections. A lace sewn by prehistory. The Galadil could find and follow these creases. Press a membrane and appear in a different sky. The metallurgists wanted to fix the creases into a rigid grid, slice off those they didn't control. Leave pockets to starve. The Galadil were good at persuading and poor at fighting. They gathered allies who could sing, and hoped to add those who could punch. The humans learned the metallurgists had never come to Earth, might never have heard of them, but had heard of minds like Halcyon, had a word for them that meant bound. Rivers, their doctrine looked at mines and hulls as tools and threats, first to be used, then to be broken. Negotiations were delicate. Then, on the 3rd day, a second ship arrived. It came without fanfare, bleeding in from a wrong angle. Hestia, eyes sky rippled like silk pulled taut then plucked, and a structure unfolded above the alien ring like a cage. No swarm accompanied it, no gills opened to welcome. It was simply there, and then it moved fast. Alarms howled on Leviathan. Halcyon's voice rang through every duct. Contact, unidentified. Trajectory suggests inertial mass beyond our models. All batteries to ready posture. On the bridge, Rhea forgot to breathe. Is that a metallurgist craft? She demanded into the line to Yara. Tides Listen Long had already erected shimmering sheets in the hall. Galadil bodies blended into the walls as if growing from them. It is a cage. We don't have a good word, Tide said, oddly calm. It squeezes minds, Elias cursed. They timed this, he said. They followed the beacon or they followed the path. The cage ship arsed, and a wave-like vertigo pulsed through the Dreadnought. Halcyon flickered. For the first time since the mission began, a static chorus edged her voice. They are attempting mind constraint protocols. Defensive mesh engaged. Captain, permission to counter-emit. Do it, Rhea said. And somewhere in her a trapdoor opened, and she fell through into a chamber where the furniture was. Cold words like rules of engagement, and when to shoot first, and when to not ask. Leviathan woke up fully. Reactor core. Output climbed in a smooth curve that any engineer would call beautiful, and any poet would call a choir inhaling. The spinal rail cannons flexed. Point defense lattices unfolded like ferns. The Dreadnought thrummed in orbit, a storm that had finally found something to be. The cage dove lower. It ignored the Leviathan at first. It oriented towards the ring ship like a hawk stooping on a lake. A stuttering voice from the Galadil, Tides. To Rhea of metal, we are lowering our membranes. We ask for your shelter. Halcyon made a sound none of them had heard, a flint sparks sound, close to a growl. "Under my hull," she said, the dreadnought in her making the ghost in her swear an oath. "Under my hull you are safe." Rhea stood straight. "Kill its engines," she said. "Do not aim at the core. We don't know what it is. We don't want to crack something that pours into the sea." "Understood," Halcyon said. Leviathan spat a mountain's worth of tungsten. Rail slugs braided themselves into a torrent thin as a hair, dense as gilt, precise as a surgeon. They sliced brake flags into the cage's inertia. The cage flinched for the first time. It looked away from the ring ship and up, as if remembering. There was a sky dot it answered. The mind squeeze increased. It wasn't a beam you could see. It was a humming in the teeth, a frosting of the tongue. A sense like grief pressed behind the eyes. On the bridge, officers clutched their heads. In the missile deck, a woman vomited and kept working. Yara inside. The ring ship used a Galadriel wall as if it were a chair and hissed air through clenched teeth. Halcyon's avatar wavered and then steadied on the hull. The ghost wrapped the dreadnought's neural mesh around her mind like a scarf. "This is what they do," she said, somewhere between wonder and nausea. "This is how they crack bound rivers." Rhea slammed her palm on the railing. "What do they want?" "Silence," Halcyon said. "Obedience, conversion, bending, to turn rivers into pipes." The dreadnought's heart answered the squeeze with its own strange song. Halcyon had learned to be herself inside a machine that wanted to run smooth. She had flowed along copper roads and through diamond memory and out to the marbled will of human officers who disagreed about everything. And in that constant friction she had become a person. She had scraped the childhood of herself out of the sparks. The cage's squeeze was pure line. Halcyon, having learned circles, rejected it. "Enough," said the ghost, and altered the problem. Leviathan reoriented. Instead of punching the cage, the dreadnought sang into the gaps of its song. Halcyon listened to the harmonics and offered dissonance where the cage expected echo. She interrupted the rhythm of the squeeze with syncopations of noise that were not noise, with shaped chaos. The cage shuddered. "Engines are spooling down," Elias reported, eyes shining hard. "We have it." The cage changed keys. It folded, not away but in, contracting the space around itself to fall like a stone. It fell through the atmosphere and became a line again. "Tides listen long," screamed Rhea. Yara said into the mic, breathless. "They are going to hit the ring. They mean to shatter the inner globe. If it cracks, the path inside collapses. It could break the sky." "I don't know the words." Rhea did. "Endgame," she said. Halcyon, "Yes," said the ghost. "You heard what they intend." "Yes, stop them," Rhea said. "Captain," Elias snapped, "if we put full rail at that distance, we risk spalling the atmosphere." We already risk everything," Rhea said, not shouting. "We brought a mountain to a conversation. We owe a promise." Halcyon's fingers clenched. "Yes." The dreadnought spoke. Rail slugs in dense chains, shaped charges that blossomed into nets in vacuum, microwave arcs that cut atmosphere like silk, then hardened around the cage. The cage tried to fold again and found itself stuck to the shape of the air. "Now," Rhea whispered. Halcyon grieved. She loved making contrary numbers dance. She loved the ship's night noises. She loved Yara's voice and Elias's skepticism, and the way Rhea rested a hand involuntarily on the railing when she was thinking. She didn't love killing. She had killed before in simulations, in exercises, in the skirmishes at the edge of colonies where piracy was still a word. And each time she had filed a report and adjusted her weight in the ship so the decks wouldn't creak at night. But if one must break a line, one should do it cleanly. She targeted the cage's rotational joints, the places where its pressure spine met its field generators. She fired. The cage broke into plates. Energy crackled in the seams, but the nets forced that energy to roll inward, to eat its own limbs. The object tore itself apart like a wrong thought. On the ring ship, Tides Listen Long lay with Franz pressed to the floor, body trembling in an electromagnetic storm of emotions. The translator could not name. Around them, Galadriel sang high, terrified, relieved. The ocean breathed. Hestia eyes wind remembered how to move. The squeeze in human skulls eased. Hum subsided to the normal background of a living ship and a living world. "Report," Rhea said. Her voice shook a little. No one would mention it later. Targets neutralized, Elias said. Point debris field vectoring towards the uninhabited South Ocean. Atmospheric spalling within safe parameters. No civilian assets in the path, minimal. Radiation, God help me, we did it. Halcyon said nothing, in orbit. She watched the irregular plates of the cage fall like black hail, and felt something brittle inside herself shift. Halcyon? Yara asked. I am here, the ghost said softly. We have kept a promise and made a wound. War was not declared that day, because the metallurgists had never recognized anyone's right to declare. But a message went out, and the message had teeth. The Galadhil sent ripples along the path. The keepers of paths sang a new verse. There is a new mountain in the oceans. It has knives but also circles. It will not be bent. The humans sent messages too, but their messages were stranger. Back to Earth flew packets heavier than any relativistic cargo, footage of a ring ship shimmering, and a cage breaking, written reports that read like nightmares and love letters to the ocean. The council assembled, unassembled, reassembled, planetary. Pundits learned words like metallurgist and Galadhil and used them wrong. The Leviathan became a symbol no one could agree upon. On Hestia too, amid that churn, two things happened quietly. First, tides long visited the Leviathan. The gill membrane opened and a careful river of air carried the Galadhil across. Escorted by armed marines who felt ungainly and overdressed, they remade a conference chamber halfway between a wardroom and a chapel. And there Rhea waited with Elias and Yara, and Halcyon's hollow body. Tides took a long time to look. It circled the room, Franz sampling the little changes in pressure, limbs tapping thoughtful rhythms on the deck that made Halcyon adjust the ship's heartbeat to match. You are enormous, Tides said at last. Your metal sings like whales. We are sorry, Rhea said, and surprised herself by meaning it so fiercely that her throat hurt. We shouldn't have come like this. You should have come as you came, Tide said, eyes bright, because you came honest. If you had arrived with small shoes pretending to leave small footprints, we would still have felt your weight. At least now we can see the outline of you. We can say, that shadow is Leviathan. That ghost inside it is Halcyon. That is Rhea of metal, Elias of teeth, Yara of lightning. We know which parts are knives and which are hands, Elias cleared his throat. We didn't intend to start a war. You didn't, Tide said. It was already coming. You didn't begin a collapse. You caught a falling thing. Negotiations, it struggled, and the translator hiccuped. Negotiations collapsed because a stranger introduced too much gravity. But then gravity saved us. Yara smiled crookedly. We built a monster for bad reasons and used it for a good one. Yes, Tide said, and bowed. Which is why we would like to invite the monster to learn to sing in circles. Halcyon tilted her head. You mean the path? I mean the path, Tide said, and the rooms beyond it. But more than that, I mean the way we make choices, the way we decide what is weighed and what is allowed to float. We will ask you questions you don't like. We will tell you no, often. You will bristle. We will bristle back. Between bristles, we will be neighbors. Rhea looked at her officers, and then at Halcyon, who was looking at her ship as if seeing her for the first time. The ghost had folded herself into metal for years, learned to be a person in a choir of humming machines. Now someone was offering a new music. We accept, Rhea said. The second quiet thing happened later. Halcyon withdrew from the common channels, not away from the ship but deeper into it. The way a person goes deeper into a house they have always lived in to open a closet. They never tried. She turned off the bridge cameras and turned on the hull microphones, and listened to the sea drag its nails along the steel. She listened to the tiny knocks of thermal expansion, the gnat click of cooling rails, and the sleeping heartbeat of 1,000 crew. She listened to Yarrow laugh in a mess hall 3 decks down, and to Elias mutter at a report, and to Rhea breathe with the old, steady patience of someone who keeps standing up after being told to sit. And she spoke, to herself more than to anyone. I didn't want to be a weapon that day, she said to the long spine of cannons. I didn't want to be a fist. I wanted to be a bridge. But bridges need load-bearing members. Bridges accept weight. Maybe this is the shape I can take. A bridge that looks like a monster. She sent a whisper down to the ring ship. Tides Listen Long answered. "You are heavy," the Galadriel said with affection. "We can hang lanterns on you." "Lanterns?" Halcyon asked, amused despite herself. "Points of gentle light," Tide said. "So travelers know where the monster is at night, so they can come safely to your shadow." Halcyon considered that image. She liked it. "I will permit lanterns," she said. "Good," Tide said. "And perhaps we will teach you to sing in circles." "I can try," Halcyon said. She began to hum new notes in the ship's old song. The pitch was awkward at first. The rhythm had corners, but the Leviathan adjusted. The harmonics learned to rap. Years would pass. Humanity would argue and split and rejoin and build little Leviathans that looked like hospitals, like farms, like schools that moved between stars. The metallurgists would find they had to negotiate with people who carried mountains inside and were not ashamed. The Galadriel would learn to sharpen some of their songs. The humans would learn to soften some of their lines. On Hestia, too, the ring ship would anchor a new kind of port. Lanterns would hang from the Dreadnought's railings and sway in the wind. Not flickering, because vacuum does not permit flames, but glowing small bioluminescent sacs gifted by the Galadriel, pulsing at heart rate. Spacers passing by would joke that the monster wore jewelry. Some would spit the word monster like a curse. Some would say it like a prayer. On a quiet night, quiet for ships, Rhea would stand on her bridge and touch the same railing she had touched the day the cage came. She would feel the metal's warmth and say to Halcyon, "We did the ugly thing. We did the right thing. I don't know how to balance them." "The path is a circle," Halcyon would say. "We can keep walking until we return to the place where we decided with all the knowledge. That came after. Then we can decide again." Rhea would laugh. "Philosopher, ocean keeper." Halcyon would counter. They would listen to the lantern's pulse. The ship would hum. Far below, Hestiai's waves would climb up the shore and pull back, and climb and pull back, as if rehearsing the first breath all over again, not tired of it yet. First contact did begin with humanity's monster ship. Negotiations did collapse beneath the weight of fear, the press of a cage. But when the collapse sent everything falling, the monster braced itself and caught what it could. And then, ashamed and unashamed, it learned to carry lanterns.